All right, this is lesson 8.4b, writing rules for linear functions in pre-algebra. Here's the quiz I gave you to start. Here we go. The first thing we need to do on this, number one, is to find the slope. How do I find the slope? You choose any point on here, right? And then you go, where does it go to any other point, right? So from here, and how do I find the slope? The slope is rise over run. Right, so then, okay, how far from here? It rose down 1. What does a down 1 rise mean? -1. -1 over, and then it ran to the right 2. What is to the right 2? Positive 2. So what is that as a slope? That is a -1/2 slope. That is true. Number 2. Where is the y-intercept? That is where our line crosses the y-axis. Where does it cross the y-axis? At 2. Right? These are things you're just looking at. You're just looking at it. Right? You're just looking at it. Does that make sense? You're just looking at it. Where does it cross the y? Oh, 2. And then it says write a rule for this line. Well, if you know the slope and you know the y-intercept, can you write a rule?
Yes.
Yeah. What is the basic? What is the formula for this? Y equals mx plus b, right? The m being slope and the b being the y-intercept. So we're going to go y equals, what was the slope again? 2x, and then, sorry, no. The slope is -1/2 x. That's the slope, and then the intercept was 2, so plus 2. That's the deal. They could have f of x equals -1/2 x plus 2. Or y equals -1/2 x plus 2. How many of you got that one right? Okay. Number 4. To write a rule here, you need to figure out what is the slope. Well, when you have a table like this, you're going to go, okay, what is x here? What's happening with the x's each time? Plus 1. Okay. And so the y's are being -1. Now, what is the rule for finding the slope again? It's the change in y over the change in x. So what is the change in y? -1. What is the change in x? Plus 1, which is 1. What is -1 over 1? Just -1. The slope of that line is -1. How many of you got that? What'd you put?
I wrote the rule. Yeah, you wrote the rule.
Oh, right. You're supposed to write the rule. What am I doing? The rule. So the slope is -1, right? So the slope m equals -1. So then that's fine. Now we write the rule. So it goes, is this f of x? Yes. F of x equals, I'm going to have to move this stuff. So we know that m equals -1. What's the slope again? We don't put in -1x. You don't. That is redundant. What do? Should that -1 be there? No. What would you do? Just -x. If it's there, it's not that it's wrong. You understood it. You just didn't write it right. Does that make sense? So -x, and now we have to decide where's it cross the y. Well, where do you look to see where it crosses the y?
0.
You see. Explain that. You look to 0? What do you mean? Explain. What am I looking for? How do I know where it crosses the y? Where x is 0, wherever x is 0, you look over here, what is y when x is 0? Well, this time it happens to be 0, so it would be plus 0, which we don't write. It's just this, right? F of x equals -x. That is the deal. If you have a -1x, I'll take it this time. From now on, you don't put a 1 in front of a variable. You know this. Make sense? Number 5. What's happening here with the x's each time?
They're
adding 1. Okay. What is happening with the y's? Adding 2. Okay. The rule is change in y over change in x. So what's the change in y? 2. What's the change in x? 1. What's the slope?
2.
M equals 2. So the slope is 2. So I'm going to write my rule. Notice there's a y here. So what should you have written down here as to start? You should have y equals. It's not a big deal if you have f of x today, but if I have y, that's what I'm asking for. Y equals. What's the slope? 2x. And then, okay, how do I know where it crosses the y? How do I know where the y-intercept is? You look where x is 0. When x is 0, y is 1, so it's plus 1. Y equals 2x plus 1. Are you following this? Yes, it's okay this time. But from now on, if I give you y, I'm asking for y. If I give you f of x, I want f of x. Does that make sense? I'm telling you what I want in the question. Okay, on this one, I want the rule. Well, in order to find the rule, what are the two things I need to know in order to find the rule? What are the two things I need to know? I need to know the y-intercept and the slope. Can you tell me the y-intercept and the slope on this baby?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so what is the y-intercept?
-3.
That's -3. So we know this whole thing's going to be something, 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 and then it's going to be -3, right? We know that. And it's going to end up being y equals, what's the slope? Well, it goes up 2 over 1. That makes a 2 over 1 slope, which is a 2. So 2x minus 3. Y equals 2x minus 3. That's the rule. Make sense? All right. Okay, so there's the only thing now that's left to do for this lesson is this. You know how to do these. Obviously, you just showed me. You can do them. Here's the last thing, and it's just combining a few things that we've already learned. What have I told you? Okay, here's the deal. Here's 1 point on the, here, oh well, I'll give you this, and I'll read you the instructions exactly. Okay, here's the instructions. Write a rule for the linear function whose graph contains the two given points. Write a rule. So what are they asking you for? A rule for what? This linear function. So in other words, this is going to be it's a line, right? It's a line, and it says for a linear function whose graph has, whose graph contains the two given points. So you know that those 2 points are part of the line that I want you to graph, that I want you to write the rule for, right? So what do you do with this? You can do a couple of things. One, remember, what can you do? Can you figure out the slope without graphing it? Yes. Can you figure out the slope if you graph it? Yes. I don't really care which way you use. To me, it takes forever to graph, right? I mean, it just adds so much extra time. What's the rule? If I want to figure out the slope of these two things, what do I do? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Excellent. We'll call this point 1, and we'll call this point 2, and we'll do it. What is y2? 5 in parentheses minus 1 over x2 is 2 in parentheses minus 1. What is 5 minus 1? 4. 2 minus 1? 1. So what's the slope? 4. If I know the slope, right, now here's the deal. If I know the slope, that means that's m equals 4. We know it's going to end up being y equals 4x, and then now we have to know, okay, where is the y-intercept? Agreed? We have to know where the y-intercept is, okay? I'm going to show you right now, pay attention, I'm going to show you right now how to do this without, well, I am going to have you graph this. I mean, like that is the way to find the slope. Okay, I will show you that is more of an algebra concept. I'll show you how to find the y-intercept later. So let's go back here. But that is how you find the slope, just like we did. That's the slope formula anyway, right? That's how you find the slope. So let's go back and do this. Let's graph it. Okay, so, and you'll need, this is where you need to have a nice straight edge, 1, 1, right, and 2, 5, right, and so then when you draw our line here, notice this, that the slope is a 4 slope. That means I'm going to go down 4 over 1. The other point is right there. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If this was over 1, up 4, then this is the same thing, down 4 over 1. Make sense? And so then where's the y-intercept? Negative 3. So then it would be y equals 4x minus 3. Does that make sense? Okay. You guys try one of those. Let me give you one. 11. Oh, it's too big. It's too big. It's too big. Give me a second here. 1 second, I'll find you one. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. What about this? I'll have point -3, -3, 3, and 3, -1. Okay, there's my 2 points. I want you to write for me a rule for a line that goes through those 2 points. Okay? Whenever I give you these two, like I said, in algebra, I will show you a different type. There's a, you know, slope-intercept form. There's another thing called point-slope form that you can use to plug this stuff in, and you can figure out the y-intercept using point-slope form, but that's next year. So anyway, for now, I'm going to have you graph this. So if you have 2 points, and they say, write me a rule, you can't do it unless you know the y-intercept, right? So in order to find the y-intercept, you have to graph it, right? So we're going to graph this baby. All right, there's that. Okay. 1 point is -3, 3, right? The other point is 3, -1. There's the 2 points. Now, one thing you could do is you get a ruler out and you hope that you got it right. You know what I'm saying? You hope that you are accurate enough to get it right. One thing you can do though is this. Can I figure out what the slope is just from that information?
Yeah.
I can. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What is y2? Well, we'll say that's 1, that's 2. What's y2? -1 in parentheses minus 3 over, what's x2? 3 minus -3. Okay, what is -1 minus 3? -4. What is 3 minus, and what is 3 plus 3? 6. So what is this slope? -2/3. We know the slope is -2/3, right? M equals -2/3. We know that. Okay, so if we know that, that means it's down 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. Isn't that the exact point that it crosses the y?
Yeah.
Right? So then if that's true, what is my rule? Y equals, what's the slope? -2/3. What is this? X. What is that point? Plus 1. Right? Isn't that 0.1? Right? People, it's so simple now. Once you have the graph written out, and I say, what's the rule? You should be able to go, oh man, there's the slope, there's the y-intercept. You're done. It's 5 seconds. It really is 5 seconds because you're looking at it. Right? If I give you this, and I tell you, I would like for you to, right now, you have 5 seconds in your head to think about what the rule is. Gigi, what's the rule for this? When I say write a rule, what am I saying? What is the basic template going to look like? What am I talking about? Are you going to say like P equals? Is that what you're going to? When I say write a rule, what's it going to look like? Y equals. Right. Okay. So y equals. What's the slope, Gigi? No. I'm confused. What's the slope? Listen. What does the slope mean? What is the slope, Gigi? Isn't it rise over run? Isn't that what the slope is for real? You know that? For real. You know that the slope means rise over run, right? What's the rise, Gigi? What's the rise? If the rise is 3, what's the run? So then what's the slope? 3, right? You should look at that and be able to see that's a 3 slope, not negative. I don't know, even know where you're getting that, right? The slope means the angle of the line, right? The slope. That's a 3 slope. So you know it's going to be y equals what? 3 what? 3x. And then the last part is where it crosses the y-intercept. Where does it cross the y? What is that point? You should just be able to look at that and go, that's a negative. Y equals 3x minus 2. For real. Okay, your homework. What is today, Wednesday? Page 420 to 421. Ooh, is that really what I'm going to do? Okay, no, we're going to go 1 through, no, 4 through 8, all, plus 13 through 24 even. Make sure you get that written down correctly. Just follow the rules. Okay, follow the instructions.